Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Little Things Podcast. I'm Bethany Werner.
I'm Rachel Hines, and we're not going to announce the surprise guest yet. We're going to make him sit and see how long he can sit over there quietly.
Let's just say I didn't invite him.
I did.
Is this your first male guest?
Oh my gosh, it is.
Is it?
Yeah. Bringing a little testosterone into the podcast today.
Well, this is kind of exciting. No, is it?
Who else would it have been?
Exactly. All you do is you ladies talk to each other.
And they're amazing.
And they're
made
great.
fun of me over there on my keyboard for too long.
It's true.
All the little tapping. And how did we start just a second ago before we actually did the clapping, which says we're actually starting to talk? What were Mr. Scott's words? This is going to be so great.
Yes, it is going to be great.
Remember when we did our podcast about anxiety and Scott's like, oh, I never had anxiety before.
I don't believe it. Is it still true?
And now he's like.
Now he's got anxiety because he's sitting with us.
Oh, no, not at all.
He's usually got the pastors here.
I have the control of the mics right here. I can do that.
Rude.
But he's the most confident guest we've ever had.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome.
Oh, I do this all the time. So, yeah.
It's obviously my Scott impression.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one.
And this is one of those times I wish we had video as well. So, Scott, for those that don't know who you are, the few in the world, tell us a little bit about who Scott Guenther is.
I have a long history because I'm old.
You're even older than I am.
I am older than, very older than you are. I am a high school teacher by trade. That is where I started my ministry. 15 and a half years of teaching biology and phys ed.
Did you say 50 and a half?
15 and a half.
Did you have 50?
Are you?
Are you having problems with your hearing, old lady?
I think so. I think my earmuffs went off. No.
Half of the 80s and all the 90s.
15
I was
and
a
a
high
half.
school teacher.
Oh, wow.
And Scott has his master's in physical education.
I do. I have a master's degree in physical education.
Why didn't I know that?
You never ask me.
I'm
You
going to
just
start
say,
just
fix
asking.
my computer.
Next
That's all you ever ask.
time I walk by you in the hall, I'm just going to start asking random questions.
And I'm going to make you do some push-ups.
I
That's
could.
what I learned in my master's.
Can I be on my knees?
Yeah, sure. Then I came out to Messiah in 2001 and did high school youth ministry for 15 and a half years.
Wow, that's like your limit is 15 and a half.
It is. And I burn out.
Yeah.
And so now it has been, almost 8 years of doing all the technology here at Messiah, which means fixing things and pretty much anything that uses electricity. People say, Scott.
And some things that don't.
True.
So do you have 7 years left?
Well, they try. This I was just asked to help fix the Acolyte torches.
And
I'm like,
they're electric.
no, that's not my thing. So,
Well, and now you've kind of come full circle a little bit because you're filling in a very important need again.
I'm back as the interim high school youth director
Yeah.
right now. I am and enjoying that.
You just can't stay away from those high
It's
schoolers.
a lot more enjoyable to hang around with teenagers than adults. So, sorry. That's my
I'm not
comfort
offended.
area.
I think I would choose like 5-year-olds.
There you go.
So I have to circle back because I'm fascinated by this. Did you ever teach physical education?
Oh, yeah. A whole lot.
Really? I thought. Why did I think you were a science teacher?
I had an offer to be a professor at Concordia Ann Arbor for physical education, but nope, it just wasn't. I turned it down. That was after all that preparation. It just wasn't what God had in store for me. So.
Wow.
Scott was also a big deal soccer player.
What? I knew you liked soccer.
I was. Yeah, I was. I think I'm still third on the all-time scoring list at Ann Arbor.
Shut up.
No,
This is the second time this week I've said that to him.
Yeah, no,
it's our love
that
language.
was one of the hardest things moving out here is that I was Mr. Soccer. I coached both boys and girls teams in high school because they were at different seasons in Michigan. And that was my identity. And then I came out here and they're like, oh, you know soccer? And I'm like,
I know soccer.
I have forgotten more about soccer than you'll ever. Yeah, that was a real challenge coming out, moving so far away and into a different environment. Yeah, nobody knew me as a soccer guy or the physical guy. And,
that is crazy when that's been your identity for so long. And then
that was a big change.
I'm just learning all kinds of new things.
Trying to think if I know any
thanks
other.
for coming to our podcast. That
And that's a wrap.
that's all we need.
It was great.
Right.
See?
Well, okay. So this podcast kind of came up about organically, which most of them do. This morning, Scott was in my office helping me.
Fix your technology.
Yeah. I was trying to think of something else that makes me sound smarter than I am. But yes, we were talking tech stuff. And on his way out the door, because he is, although I'm going to put my hand up so he can't see me say it.
Don't.
He is pretty smart and sometimes has really good ideas. But
You are so kind. I would never say that
I've
publicly.
got more experience with high schoolers than you do, and you were asking my advice.
I said, hey, Scott, before you walk out that door, give me your take. When do you think a phone is appropriate for a child?
You asked at such an interesting time.
Yes. And so we started talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what we need to do our podcast on today, is talk about technology. And I'll tell you the background. We have 4 kiddos. Our Maddie, of course, will never have a phone. Our Jasmine, when she had one, it was still flip phones because that was a long time ago. Brady had to have one at 15 because we needed it to help monitor his seizure activity with epilepsy. And now we have an 11-year-old who really, truly thinks she needs a phone. And so this conversation came from tears last night after yet another presentation about why she needed a phone. And her parents yet again said, not until you're 16. So maybe
So
I really
she actually made a presentation.
Yeah, was it a PowerPoint?
So
or was
she
it
did.
like,
So this is actually
okay.
impressive. The first one, she did create a PowerPoint. It was awesome. Like we were like, wow, you did an amazing job with that. That is, and like we talked about the points. We're like, you thought this through. This was great. But no.
But absolutely.
However,
Enough of that.
we're, as your parents, we love you and our job is to keep you safe. And we don't think this is a necessary tool for you right now because you are not capable of using it as a tool. Last night, the presentation was basically why I want a phone and what I'll do. And it was way less shiny. It was not as impressive, but the tears at the end were good.
Absolutely.
There was some good acting involved, which I don't think it was acting.
Probably not. I spilled, sorry.
But so
Okay, so Scott and I just read this book. Although
I haven't
he'll
finished
be
it
like,
yet. I'm getting close, but
I did finish it.
you
I
listened
wasn't
to it. You
even
didn't read it.
invited to read
This
because these are the 2 cerebral people now.
No, you didn't read the book. You listened to it.
I was just going to do another Scott impression. Ooh, you didn't read the book.
I am a stickler for that. It's basic biology. If you use your eyes, you're reading the book. If you're using your ears, you're listening to the book.
It is true. I listened to the
But
book.
it's still great.
But
You got lots of knowledge out
absorbed
of
the
it.
information.
Good.
And I have a physical copy at home where I've gone back and looked at it. So it's funny that you ask him because he's all on fire about this book.
That's what he said. He plunked himself back down in my office, which he doesn't do very often.
No, I usually
He's
run.
smarter than that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, what's the title of the book?
The Anxious Generation.
By?
Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. I think that's how it's pronounced. I don't know.
He's been making the podcast circuit.
And
You may
he's
have-
written a number of books before this. So yeah.
But what a good title, The Anxious Generation, because true, yes.
Yes, he was going to write a book about how technology has affected our political landscape. But then, and this first chapter of this book was just going to be all that he talked about adolescence. But then he realized, no, this is an entire book in itself. And
Oh, wow.
it is. It's a lot. It's more than he anticipated finding. So
Yeah, it's eye-opening. It's scary. It gives some link to what we're seeing with the rising number of mental health issues with our preteens and teens, and also stopping and looking at what may have caused it. He is confident in that this is a real link to it. I'm doing some other research and looking because my science background, I just always want to really dig deep and not just believe what somebody says. And so I definitely believe it's a contributing factor, whether it's the only one or not. More than likely not. but I've seen, I mean, with my experience with high school kids, I was there doing most of the youth work and teaching in all these stages of technology. In the 90s, when one of my students started working at a beeper store. And he starts supplying
I was like,
all
beeper,
the
what's
kids.
that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they were super
Do you know
cool.
that was Bethany's nickname?
Beeper?
Yeah.
That was for other reasons, though.
No.
See, you got a boy in here now, and we talk about beeps. And,
But literally, I was like, a beeper store. All I can think of is Bethany. What's a beep? Oh, a beeper.
Oh.
Yeah, back in pager. Yeah.
I never
This kid was supplying them for all his friends, and he got me one. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I can do this." And then later we found out he was signing us up, and so he got fired from the beeper store. And now he's a state police officer for the state of Michigan.
Yeah,
Good for him.
Perfect.
That happens
Turned
a
his
lot.
life around.
But those were super cool because you would get alerts like score alerts from ESPN and weather alerts. So it was the first kind of smart object in schools and very intriguing. And some of my last years of teaching biology, I would scrounge used computers from companies in the area. And so I set up a whole computer lab for kids to take notes that way.
Sure.
Well, they quickly figured out how they could type up a note and then send it via the little network we had, because the internet really wasn't a thing yet in schools. But since I had the computers connected via something called Apple Talk, so you could get the early Macs to talk to each other, they figured it out right away, and they're sending messages and
funny.
Oh, yeah, it was something. So then we get into phones, and all of a sudden you've got texting with the flip phones.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody young listening to this, you used to have to press that button like 4 times to get to the right letter, and then switch to another button and press it 3-4 times. And texting was not fun.
No.
Nobody
And then you
wanted
got
to text.
T9.
Oh,
And I was
yes.
an excellent texter at T9.
I could never figure it out.
Yep.
It irritated me.
It was just all those different changes. But we have, and as the author talks about in here, we have just embraced all the new tech and grabbed it, and we've never had enough time to see what the effect might be.
Right.
And so his claim is, at this point, we've now got almost 15 years of smartphone and even more than smartphone social media use to see how that may have an impact on kids.
Yeah.
It is now to the point where, okay, now that we've used it, now we've got to dial it back.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things in the past.
Yeah.
So the beginning part of the book, he compares a play-based childhood to a phone-based childhood. Right, Scott?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And by phone, he means tablet.
Any kind of tablet, sure.
Yeah, exactly. He always repeats that it's not just a phone, but any kind of tablet.
Like screen-based,
Screen-based,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where the play-based versus screen-based, and it's not just a change in the screen-based, it's a lot of things, like just less responsibility, less independence for kids, less of everything than it was in that play-based.
Yeah, he goes back into the 80s and the 90s and talks a lot about, he said at the time there was such a scare and such a fear of our kids being picked up by sexual predators. You know, some guy's going to drive up in his van and he's going to grab a kid and throw him in there. And so we stopped allowing kids to play freely and play unsupervised. But he says, and in the meantime, we've developed technology where now we hand them technology and they have free reign. And
all those predators.
Stats show it was actually the most safe time in our history when we were then so afraid.
Yeah.
And now we're not as afraid to hand them an iPad or a computer or the internet, and they can be
access
connected
anything.
to anybody and anything.
And where have all the predators gone? Online, because that's exactly what they know.
Right.
It is unsupervised.
Yep.
Well, and even in the early childhood realm, when you're talking about that screen-based play, a couple sessions ago, because I feel like this is a session. This is like my counseling every week. I hear that. A couple episodes ago when we had Suzanne Schneider from Lincoln Littles, and she just barely hit on like the crisis in early childhood, and that teachers and administrators are burnt out because they're exhausted. It's different. I've been in this field for over 20 years, and it's different, and our kids are different. And I don't have the science to back it up, but I strongly feel it's screen usage, like, because our kids cannot attend, like the attention span is so minimal, and not, I mean, that's generalizing, but there's a marked difference even from, I would say, 5 years ago, definitely 10 years ago. And this is taking into account age appropriate attention span. It's just not there. And we're seeing it, you know, it used to be there would be a couple kiddos in each class. Okay, we're going to have to work on expanding this, you know, and how can we, but I'm talking about whole classes and what's a common factor is that we have screens everywhere. I don't know.
I think that goes into adults too.
Yeah. For sure.
You see that in adults. I see it myself all
Chief
the time.
of sinners, though I be. That's what I think of when I talk about all this. Is like, I am not good. Yes.
I sit watching a hockey game, and while my phone's in my hand, and at the same time I'm doing this too. And and
I'll
put it down at times, but then I want to grab it. All of a sudden, I want to look something up, or what about this?
Well, we were when the 11-year-old came and asked, and with tears and, all of that. And he said, no, our job is to keep you safe. Number one, there's like, they're addictive. Like we've seen that with your siblings. They have that thing attached to them all the time. We're protecting you from this. You had to have an iPad for school. You're not following the boundaries we set on that with using it too often. So no, we're gonna place a boundary around this that we can do by not getting you a phone. And she was in tears and went into the living room and was sitting. And I had to I wanted to grab my phone so bad because I had just gotten home from work, and I was like, I think I just want to scroll on something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Rachel, how embarrassing. And you know what I did? I grabbed that stinking thing and I put it in front of me so she couldn't see me. And I still did it.
Yeah,
and I thought,
sneaky.
Hilarious.
And then I was so angry. I set it over there. I'm like,
right.
Satan, get away from me.
It is like
it's
an addiction.
Well, and that's, he talks a little bit about that. And so when I was starting here doing youth ministry, Facebook was just getting off the ground. And at that time you had to be in college. And so you couldn't get a Facebook account unless you had an email address that was a college email address. And then
for all of Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah.
2006, that's when I was in college. And
really?
Only college kids could do it.
It started that way.
I didn't even know that.
Then they opened it up to high school kids. And it was great. It was a nice way for me to connect and communicate with a lot of them. But he talks in the book too about, it was around 2010, 2012 when Facebook bought Instagram. And that's when likes became a thing, because in early Facebook, you didn't like posts or anything.
Oh.
And so that's part of the addictive design of it. It's not addictive by accident. They've made it addictive because they want you in their platform, because then it's the ad revenue. It's their business. So don't think they're doing this to make a nice little thing for us to use. They're doing it to get you addicted.
Michael and I talked about this with Facebook when we first got it, because I was a freshman in college when it came out, and it was silly. It wasn't serious. You posted dumb stuff, which again is why people then get canceled now, because you posted dumb stuff without thinking, and you dumped all the pictures, even the unattractive ones. And it wasn't serious. No one else was on it but your peers. And how now, I remember even then, years later, looking at my youth when I was in Louisville doing youth ministry, and oh my gosh, they're so curated. Very shortly after, and more with Instagram, it was it's not all the dumb pictures and all the dumb stuff. They're branding themselves. They're marketing themselves in a way to make my life look this certain way. It didn't start off like that because we didn't know, and now look what it's turned into.
Well, just because we're humans and sinful, and we take any good thing, potentially good thing for connecting people, and we mess it up, right? We make it all about ourselves. And
Absolutely.
And it didn't take long to do it, of course.
No. But I found an article online in Nature magazine, and it's really looking at the science behind his book. and they're tearing it apart a little bit and just kind of saying they've tried to do, or they've done a lot of scientific studies and haven't been able to find any concrete link between social media and the anxiety. They said the anxiety is growing, but this was an interesting quote I highlighted where they said there's no simple answer. The onset and development of mental disorders such as anxiety and depression are driven by a complex set of genetic and environmental factors. And unfortunately, I think that's true with health issues. You know, we look at how much cancer there is these days. Well, what's that from? Yeah. Is it genetic? Is it our food? Is it because we're just better at detecting cancer? All those factors. And so even if this isn't the one, golden reason, it's definitely a reason.
It's a contributor.
It's a contributor.
Well, Scott, the next book you need to read is called Bad Therapy by Abigail Schreier.
I think I saw that one sitting on Matt Stieber's desk.
Yeah. They go together very well, because she will say, everyone wants to blame this on social media or technology. I think that's a factor, but here are all these other things too. Mm-hmm. And her book is really fascinating.
I will.
You should read that next.
I will have to read that one. But
and you two can do a book report.
We can
to the girl who doesn't want to read or listen. Just kidding.
You're just on your phone all the time.
I'm probably least one of those people that I don't care to be on a phone. I can remember when the smartphones came out, I didn't want one. And I finally had to get one because it was like my phone broke or something. And I was like, oh, I just don't like it. And it took me from being like that person that's a terrible sentence. See, I am on my phone too much. Yeah. I went from despising, not wanting anything to do with it, to what by the time Lily was born, which I think I got in my phone in February, she was born in June. And I had to make a commitment to myself that I was going to leave it because I wasn't going to waste my child's infancy. Mm-hmm. That was 12 years ago on a phone because it was there all the time. I went from not wanting a smartphone to having it in my face constantly.
It happens quick.
Ew, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I had Facebook and then was like, oh, I'm addicted to this. So I got rid of it and I got Instagram instead. It's like, I'm only going to follow influencers and not people I know. I don't know. I thought that would be better. And it was for a while, but then that took over my life. So I got rid of Instagram and now my Facebook is reactivated, but I'm not posting or commenting or anything.
You're lurking.
I'm just lurking, yes. Creeping from afar.
Yes.
But to me, Facebook is significantly less interesting than Instagram because it's so addy and it's not, so it's not that big of a temptation.
The only things that keep me really linked to Facebook are that I have so many former students back in Michigan, and it's the only contact with them.
It's a good tool.
Yeah, for that.
So then it's maybe coming back to using it as a tool.
I buy and sell a lot of stuff, and that's the primary place where people now are buying and selling things is Facebook Marketplace. And so it's very much changed from what it used to be.
And maybe that's a good thing. Like to have some of where we start to use these as tools rather than
we are
obsession.
Old. That's why we are still on Facebook.
Yes,
young people aren't on Facebook. They're definitely Instagram or
they're TikTok,
Snapchat. Definitely TikTok. And who knows what else? Because we will never be able to keep up.
No, you can't.
And I don't have anything to do with TikTok, so I don't know. But am I right that those are just really short?
They're like the Instagram reels are a lot of
quick. So again, talking to that attention span.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's so
that was my sound effect.
YouTube is still actually considered a social media platform, and it's the largest. It has 95% of the population use it, and the next closest is in the mid-70s.
Yeah,
that's wild.
95. YouTube is the place.
Yeah.
And the biggest YouTuber there is Mr. Beast.
I just learned about Mr. Beast last week.
You are so
And
old.
my friend Kaylee was like, what is wrong with you? I have been
subscribing to Mr. Beast. I love Mr. Beast.
I just learned about him.
One of my former parents worked with him for a year.
Really?
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
When she worked for the Arbor Day Foundation when he was doing, wasn't Mr. Beast the one that did the planting all the trees, a million trees?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah,
and she said he's a really cool person.
Mm-hmm. He does. He seems genuinely interested in doing good things. In fact, he just released his latest video and it's 40 minutes long. And he said, I'm trying to move away from the short attention span problem videos and into a longer form that allows more storytelling, creativity, and it's still, his whole video is he gave away $250,000 to somebody randomly. He
Wow.
Wasn't me.
took 100 people of each age from 1 to 100. And of course, the 1 and 2-year-old wandered out of their little cubicle right away, and so they get eliminated. But, yeah, it's how long can you stay in this cubicle? And then it was an experiment on cooperation. If they could all cooperate and say, this is the one person we're going to give the money to, then, they would survive. But if not, he'd eliminate 25 out of the 100. And
Really?
yeah, it was
Which
nice.
age one? Spoiler alert.
47.
Interesting.
It was,
Next year's my year.
it was down to 5 people, and he gave them 10 minutes and said, if you can agree on one person getting the money, they get it. If you can't, nobody gets it.
Wow, that's
And
wild.
that's what they had to do. And so one of the guys came up with the idea and said, let's each one of us rank who is number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we add up all the rankings, and that will be the decision maker.
That was brilliant.
It was. And he ended up in second, and somebody else got first. And they said, okay,
Here we go.
came up with a way to do this so somebody would win without it getting brutal.
Set the rules, agree to the rules, play by the rules,
Yes.
don't cheat.
Yes.
It's our friendship group.
Those
That's what we do. Okay, let's get back to the book.
Because the
We're
book
being
he had,
too positive
he
about
had
the internet.
4. Yeah, we are. He had,
But
but
any
you
tool,
can't
it
throw
can be,
out.
yeah,
Right.
because it can be a positive thing. It can be a useful thing, but we ruin things.
We do.
And
We're
yeah,
sinful humans.
we need to figure out how we can place boundaries around.
God gave us boundaries, and, that's for that reason. It's for our good, not so that we can say, oh, maybe it'd be better if we did it this way or that way. 4 recommendations he had in the book.
Oh, you're just skipping to the end.
Yeah, come on. We can't talk for hours. Oh, my God. Let's get to
Okay.
the point.
Well, one of the interesting things
we'll bring it
before
back.
the
Oh,
end,
yeah, you will. You will.
this man who wrote this book is an atheist.
He is.
And he talked a lot about spirituality. Well, not a lot, but there's a chapter about spirituality and the benefits of, and how basically a phone-based childhood or a phone-based life is the opposite of a spiritual life.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was, and he saying as an atheist, like, that is a huge downfall. Like, that is not a good thing, which I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah, he did. He pointed out the benefits.
One of the things was judgment, being judgmental. And he quotes Jesus on, do not judge, lest you be judged. Mm-hmm. I believe that's what he said. And saying how the internet makes everyone judgmental the worst. And we see that with the cancel culture of there's no forgiveness.
Right.
And he said Christianity promotes forgiveness and a second chance and grace and this unconditional love, where the internet is you're done. If you mess up, you're done, which I thought was really fascinating.
Did you look at the picture on the
What
board?
are you looking at? No.
Oh,
I did see
I
that.
look like E.T.
I thought it looked just like you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yes.
Your shoulder bones are so
So
Very
pronounced.
prominent in the picture.
It's all those soccer years.
That's a 4th grader drawing. We draw pictures of each other all the time. So,
I like it. It's
but no,
impressive.
it was when you read that book. Yeah, he's not a believer at all, but he definitely sees there is value in what churches provide,
Right. And
the sense of community.
yeah, I was going to say exactly
Yes,
community,
that
being
was the
together.
other thing of how the phones make you so individual,
Correct.
and we lose that bigger community, being a part of something, having a network, which is so true.
Well, and I know I was telling you in your office, Rachel, I said one of the things he talks about is how community is important for imprinting. As children are developing and growing, they're looking for role models, and they get it from their parents and they get it from other adults who are around. And when you pull them out of that and into a digital world, they're going to imprint, but they're going to do that on the influencers.
Right.
And the
Things that are fake.
that are fake. And that is the importance
wild.
of not pulling out of the real world, but having that strong connection there.
Well, and I think that's so easy. I think children obviously do that imprinting, but I think we still do that kind of as adults when we start to.
We are born looking for a face.
Yeah.
And I only see one side of the person for the most part online. Not many people show their bad sides.
Well, even those that do, I think it's still kind of curated, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. They want to be the villain, and they'll show you that.
Yeah. And it's, it's so hard.
Okay. Do we want to skip to the end of the book? So
I'm very anxious to get to that.
All right, go for it.
Before I forget what they all are.
Well, I'm just saying it goes through, there's a chapter on how social media
well, I do want to skip to the end because he talks about the end at the start, but I haven't read the whole book, so I don't know what's in the middle.
Well, I'm just
don't spoil it.
Just brief overview. Talks about social media affects girls and affects boys and how different they are.
Yes.
And girls are very much more affected by social media and the ranking and the judging and the likes, and that's where a lot of the anxiety, depression kind of stuff.
Because we're always looking for approval.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how
So I don't have anxiety. I'm a guy.
Because you don't care if anybody approves of you.
you could not survive one day of my life. One day. That's what I used to tell my dad when I was in high school. And he'd roll his eyes. He's like, whatever. I don't, whatever. Yeah.
I'm your father.
One day, Dad.
I have no idea. My life is a lot harder.
Twice as bad.
Exactly right. I have to listen to you. Okay. And then boys are less affected by social media. They're not as relational as females are. They don't have that, but they're way more affected by video games, which cause more isolation. And of course, pornography.
Yes.
Which is
everywhere.
Everywhere. And
did you guys ever read, and this was a long time ago, but Ted Bundy, remember the serial killer, Ted Bundy? Wasn't he the one that before he was executed spoke from prison often about how he believes everything started because he was introduced to pornography at a young age. I want to say it was 13. Is that right?
Age.
And he said,
heard that.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've read like some of the articles, but I think he said, that really, I mean, giving a warning to parents saying, keep your kids away from this. I really truly feel like this is what started me on this, or probably other factors as well, but contributed strongly. And now we think it can be literally in anybody's hands at any time.
And it is in their, and it's privacy. Everyone has it in the palm of their hand anytime they want it.
Right.
And that is the danger of the smartphone at an age that's too young to make decisions. I mean, we make bad decisions as adults.
Right.
Yep.
But
and our brains are fully formed.
Yeah.
Right.
And well, and I was sharing with Scott, and this is probably embarrassing also to say, but there are all these different things, these parental locks or whatever you can put on devices. I fully 150% believe that my kids are smarter than I am and they could get around them.
Of course.
Even an 11-year-old.
Yep.
And because number one, I'm not super tech savvy. Scott can attest to that. But also like it's natural for them. Their brains have grown up on this. They know the routes to go around to do.
Yeah, I read a book a while back called Digital Natives and Digital Immigrants, and it's similar to learning a foreign language.
Yeah.
Where you can learn it as an adult, but if you learn it as a child, you think that way. It's different.
You can navigate it and figure out all those loopholes. And that is a challenge
for this and other tech issues over the years. We have never had anyone have to parent in this environment before. We're the first. And so it's charting new territories. Yeah. And we don't understand. We've never had anything this dangerous in our kids' lives.
Right.
And promoted as really good, at least at the beginning. Yeah.
Yep.
Another point the book makes is he really compares it to smoking. How smoking before, everybody did it. It was everywhere, and the smoking industry, whatever, was very, don't look at these facts. It's good. Everybody's doing it. But now we know better and we don't do that. And he relates it to this of, well, now we know better. There is research that shows this isn't benefiting us.
And I grew up
we can do better.
In a time when cigarette machines were everywhere. So if I had the right pocket change, I could go and buy cigarettes. Legally, I couldn't because they're 18.
But who's monitoring?
It was sitting right there, and there's nobody monitoring it. He made that similarity.
Did you smoke?
No, but my grandma owned a bar, and so the guys at the bar would give me money because they didn't want to get up off the stool at the bar, and then I'd go over and buy them smokes.
Nice.
So, Marlboro Lights and Camels, and
I can picture. I know exactly what that cigarette machine looked like, and you had to pull the little knobby.
A large knob handle. It was very, very satisfying to have it drop down and whoa.
And the ones I can see, they were like, it was almost like this, and they're gold and then green on the bottom.
You can still, I've seen them around, and they've converted them into, there was a place downtown that converted it into art. And the person would do little sketches in that, and put them in there, and then you could pull them.
Because they're actually kind of pretty machines.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
But that's a little scary.
I've never seen them.
I'm not as old as Scott, but I'm older than Bethany.
You're in the middle there. In the middle. But the same with car seats. Yeah, there was no such thing as car seats when I was growing up, and we just climbed in the car. But then later they realized, okay, this is something we should probably start to regulate and make some
protect
rules
our kids.
towards to protect our kids. And so
when
that's
we know
what
better,
he is advocating
we
for
can do better.
in the book. Is that same thing, that we need to make some harder decisions on how to advocate for our kids.
Okay, now bring us to the back. Bring us to the end of the book, mister. I haven't even read the end of the book.
Because he did this. Oh, gosh. I was trying to do it, and I'm messing up the microphone. He flashed up 4 fingers. So now I know there's going to be 4 good points.
Yeah, I know, but I can only remember 3 of them, so I have to.
We're going to make up the 4th one.
Maybe I'll remember the
2 of them are phone related.
Okay.
And one is don't, with regards with social media accounts and with smartphones. And he's saying no smartphone before high school. Just remembered the 4th one now. No smartphone before high school and no social media before 16. That's his recommendation.
Yep.
I agree.
And I just did a quick Google search on Verizon's website. They have like 15 different flip phone models available. So it's not like you can't find a flip phone. And if you want your kid to have that connection to be able to call you after a practice or even text you, you can give them that. Now, that being said, being the former high school youth guy, there is nothing that's going to make your kid stand out like an idiot and a nerd more than to have a flip phone at high school. And so he also advocates that you need to do this as a community.
Yes.
So here we would have to start a movement amongst the Messiah parents to say we are going to pledge to do this and protect our kids and stick together. So it's not just your 11-year-old is the only one doing this.
So there was a news story about a woman. It's been in the past couple months. Anybody else see it? Because I'm the worst because I read headlines. But then my husband reads and then he reports back. But it was a woman who literally her community, it was a smaller community, and she petitioned and got the parents of the high school to agree, we're not going to get phones for our kids. We don't need them. We're a small community. We can rely on each other. And I thought, so it's doable. Amazing. You can do it.
All right. The third one relates to phones in schools. Schools need to be phone free.
Yeah.
They have devices that you can purchase. Schools can, and it's like a $20 a year subscription where the kids come and they slide their device in there and it magnetically seals and it can't open it.
Like if you go to a concert. We went to a Jack White concert and they made us do that. Yeah,
I'm
fascinated by this.
They marketed this for concert venues, and then you have a large thing about the size of a Frisbee that has a magnet, and you hold the pouch over top of it and it unlocks it for you at the end of the day. So the school office, the teachers would all have this magnet, but the kids would slide their phone in the pouch when they came in. Because I know Lincoln Public Schools right now has a no phone policy.
New this year.
But I asked some parents and they said every teacher is kind of doing their own thing.
Oh, that's too bad. My husband works at Lincoln Lutheran and they also started this policy this year. And he said it works, it's better. But he's like, but kids can also. So in his classroom, he has a pouch that you drop your phone in when you come in. Yeah. But he's like, but some kids bring a second phone. They're such little stinker butts. Isn't that crazy?
Or in between classes, if they have access to it, then they're just,
But I was talking to my friend Holly, who's a guidance counselor in Lincoln Public Schools, and she says there is significantly less fighting in the hallways this year than last year because of the no phones.
That's what they're.
She also said teachers are saying they're going further in their lessons than they have in years.
I'm sure.
And it's such a duh, what were we doing?
Right. Why did you ever allow kids to have something like that?
Yes.
Yep.
That's totally distracting. And
It's crazy to me. And it kind of breaks my heart to think of all these kids who have had to go through high school,
Learning.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah, the little
Be
experiments.
the guinea pigs. Yep.
They were.
Right. And then the fourth one really relates to free play and kids learning to have better social skills. And he advocates for much more parent-free and adult-free unrestricted play with children, which sounds so scary because it's been so long, but he includes letting your 7-year-old ride your bike to the grocery store and pick up items. Right.
He lives in New York City.
Which
He's shared, and he's doing this. He shared a story of letting his, I'm pretty sure it was 11-year-old, go to some kind of sporting event and take the subway by himself and get himself home all by himself.
Wow.
Without a phone. And he did it. And like even something happened where the train wasn't running, so he had to hail a cab instead. And he did it. But he said after that day, that 11-year-old walked around like a different person because he knew he could do it.
So we moved to Rapid City, South Dakota when I was in 8th grade. And I was obviously born in a different generation, so it wasn't so much helicopter parenting. But I was waiting for the bus to come. So we lived in, if you've ever been to Rapid City, South Dakota, there's the chapel in the hills. We lived right by the chapel in the hills, which is way west Rapid City. My middle school that I went to was in downtown Rapid City. So there's literally hills separating and you have to go, it's a long drive. Waited for the bus on my own. The bus never came because there was construction. A neighbor I've never met, we've just moved there, ended up driving me and another boy to the school. Sure. Never met this woman. Yep. Mm-hmm. My mom doesn't know because I don't have a phone. Robin drives us to school, drops us off. I have no idea where I'm going. My first day, brand new town, brand new school. End of the day, make it through that first horrible day. Don't get my schedule because everybody got it at the beginning. I was there late. Figured it out. And I am way more extroverted now than I ever was in 8th grade. Still managed to figure it out. Because I didn't ride a bus there, I didn't know what bus to get on. And there were 10 buses in front of the school at the end of the day. And I thought, oh my gosh, we literally moved to Rapid City a week before school started. I did not know the city.
No idea.
I didn't know how to get home. I didn't have a phone. I thought, I'm going to walk. I know that if I see M Hill, I need to turn. I made it literally within half a mile of our home. By the time I see my mom's blue station wagon coming, circling, and that's when I started bawling. And she pulled over and got, but I did it. And I often think, oh my goodness, what could one of my kids do that right now? Because of it was a lot of problem solving, a lot of perseverance, and not like I'm just going to sit myself here and cry until somebody comes and rescues me. I don't know if it was safe or good, but really speaks to that too. Have we given our kids a chance to navigate some of that? I don't know if I could do it in New York City though.
So I don't remember if it's him or if it's in the Abigail Schreier book. Because they both talk about this, but he said, I think there's a small window where kids are willing to take these chances and will build confidence and it will be good. And it's kind of like that 8 to 10 to 11. Mm-hmm. But once they kind of get past that, they're terrified and they won't, which is why we see so many people not getting their driver's license right away or for a long time, being not as willing to leave the house, not as willing to try new things, again, that increase in anxiety.
Yeah, he links a lot to that. And my childhood was, I was a feral child. That was what it was. I was in a small town and I was gone all day long, all night long, all in the summertime, all day long until my dad whistled. He could stick his 2 fingers in his mouth and whistle super loud. I always wish I could learn how to do that. I never did. But and my parents didn't know where we were. Sometimes we just eat lunch wherever we were. Playing baseball or playing cards or down in the river messing around. We had a river that went through our town and they didn't worry about us drowning. Or
and that sense of community too. If your parents know, okay, they're not home for lunch, Somebody else's parents are feeding them. Yeah.
Somebody's taking care of them.
Yeah.
If they'll get hungry, they'll come back.
Yeah.
Like
And
the stray cat.
the social things that you learn from that unrestricted play, where we got in fights at times because we couldn't agree on things. Well, we figured it out.
Because you had to
I might have
problem
gone
solve.
home angry one time because they wouldn't do what I wanted. And then my mom was like, well, okay, you can either stay here and do chores or you can go back and play and figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
And she didn't come over and fix everything.
Yeah.
She didn't call their mom and say, well, how could your child do?
Yeah.
Not at all. It was just
Figure it out.
oh, well, and
Yeah.
you figured it out. I figured out real quick that if I wanted to get my paper route done quickly. We had a swimming pool put in when I was 12. And so everybody swam at my house. And then I'm like, sorry, I got to go do my paper route. So you guys will have to go home. And they're like, we'll help you. So I could get my route done in like 10 minutes. And then we were back in the pool. That's problem solving.
Scott has been this way his whole life.
I always have been.
He learned
I
it
have.
from an early age.
But a website to point out that the author talks about, and I don't know if he is partnering with them or if he helped create it. It's called Let Grow, Let Grow.
It's a partnership.
It is a partnership.
And I believe they wrote a book together.
And it's called Leading the Movement for Childhood Independence. And so it gives you all kinds of activities, all kinds of
So it's
things.
more than just even talking about phones, and it's like the actual.
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
And they talked about they have a little license you can print off that your child can carry, because another instance was they sent their 7-year-old to the store on a bike to pick up one item, and the first time they did this, the police found this child, the child in the back of their car, and brought him home, and the child was almost in tears, more afraid than anything, and so they have a little printed license you can show that says, my parents gave me permission to do this and they know I'm doing this and it's okay.
That is wild.
Because in our current environment, that's strange to see.
Yeah.
A child on their own. Everybody panics and thinks there's a problem.
Well, even I walk around the lake at night when the weather's nice, only when the weather's nice, and there's a group of boys on their scooters that will go. And every time they're probably older than Lily, so older than 11. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going all the way around the lake, but on their own.
Are they okay?
And then I have to kind of chastise myself and go, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you? Like at that age, you were almost driving a car.
Yeah.
I just call them hooligans under my breath.
Ruffians.
Yes.
And delightful kids that are just out getting fresh air and doing a little adventure, maybe walking down to find rocks or whatever. And always very well behaved. Yes. And I'm like, wow. I don't know. What a strange mindset.
Wow.
I was looking at that website too the other day, and they have ideas for schools and stuff.
Ooh.
And one of them is a club after school where you get a group of kids, all different ages, like elementary school, and put some supplies in there or something. And then you back off. And you act like a lifeguard. I am not here to solve your problems. I'm not going to tell you what to play or how to play.
I'll save you for dying.
Yep, I will save you if someone is in danger, but you guys figure it out. And I'm bored. It's your problem. You solve it,
Yep.
And I think that idea is fascinating. Yeah. And it's that's how we grew up. That's how I even grew up. We played, football after church outside on the yard. And if people were fighting, you got to figure it out if you want to play. And that's fun. That's fun.
You grew up in Iowa, and that's like 20 years behind Michigan.
Well,
we're practically grew up at the same time.
Oh my gosh. First of all, if that were true, it'd have to be like 40 years behind Michigan.
Yeah, that is true. Right.
I grew up in Minnesota, which is probably, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in Minnesota, so maybe.
Yeah.
Which we did. We played until the streetlights came on, even when it was below zero.
Oh, yeah.
We had all kinds of great little.
That's why you're still wearing your winter coat.
I know, because I haven't thawed yet.
Any other thoughts or takeaways from the book?
That's all I've got. That's enough. Oof.
It's a lot to process and to chew on, but it is good. And just, I think we've stolen this phrase from Haley Jackson, who probably stole it from somebody. When you know better, you do better. Mm-hmm. And I think this is literally, we know, right? As adults for ourselves, for our kids, we know popping them in front of a screen is not good for them. Mm-hmm. We just have to start taking action. It's like a call to action, right? Yeah. There's science.
And it is a call to action. And again, they say do it in your community.
Yep.
Don't do it on your own.
Yep.
And I hope, and I know Scott and I are going to work together and do kind of a Bible study, can make this into a Bible study or a class for this fall at Wednesday nights. And if we can get kind of a movement of let's commit to this. I know I would love it as a parent of having little kids, but let's set that right now, set that boundary, and help each other out. So it's not just me.
Right.
We started that when our kids were young too. We did that with movies that they watched, and realized too, and it was difficult at times, especially when we sent them to birthday parties and had to say, we had to be proactive and say, if you're going to watch a movie, just please let us know ahead of time what it is. And to do it alone is difficult, but it doesn't stunt your children in any way.
No.
Mm-hmm.
All you're doing is what's best for them.
Yep.
And actually stepping away from the norms of society, which are no longer looking out for the best of your kids.
Right. And you're modeling that for them at a young age. Like sometimes it's hard, but
you do what's best for you, not what's popular or not what everybody is.
And so they've had that example from the time that they're little. So then as they get to those teen years and they're like, oh, okay, it's still going to be awkward and uncomfortable, but mom and dad have set that example and helped them create that boundary from a young age. I know.
Yeah.
All right. This fall, it'll all happen, Bethany.
Yeah.
We'll teach them, and then we'll organize. And
change the world.
Start this Lord of the Flies club that you're talking about. Yeah. That's all I can think of when you think, just throw the kids alone on an island and see what happens.
Good luck, children. I would love that, though. It'd be fascinating to watch.
School age care for next year. No,
exactly. Isn't that what after school is anyway?
Honestly, that's one of the things that I love about that, because there are so many kiddos that have so many different interests, so many different ages. And it kind of,
it actually is
a little bit. Whereas I say we want to model a play date. Like if you're going home after school, not in front of a screen, what are you going to be doing? Playing with your friends, playing with friends in the neighborhood. And hopefully that's going to involve some conflict, because that's when you learn how to solve conflict. I don't know.
I can hear Brady say, figure it out.
I can hear him say that too.
Brady's heard that a lot of times.
That's right.
Many times. Right. And he's a good figure-outer.
Yeah, it's good for him. All right. Well, thank you,
This
Scott.
was great. I hate to admit when you're right, but look at you.
It was.
You were. See, we're delightful.
So bad.
You are.
We are delightful.
Wonderful to hang around.
You're welcome for coming on our podcast.
I was going to say thank you, but
you're welcome.
This has been a Messiah Lutheran Ministry production. Subscribe to Messiah Lutheran on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find our worship services and our Sermon Extra podcast by searching Messiah Lincoln on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. If you'd like to know more about Messiah Ministries, visit messiah.us. We'd love to hear from you as well, so please email us at littlethings@messiah.us.